Still kind of. Just two, right?
Okay. We're gonna give it a couple more minutes. We have some Girl Scouts as our guest and they are using the ladies' room. Yes, here we come. No, but we have cupcakes. We have cupcakes. Here they are. Kara, once you guys are all situated, maybe the scouts could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance when they're ready. That's fine. We can wait. Just so you know, the camera's right behind you. So. Your back looks lovely, though. That's right.
Yes.
Not a problem. Okay, is that everybody? Great. All right, gonna call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. You can all stand, and girls, can I get you all to start it, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the moment of silence. This is your opportunity to, if there's somebody you want to lift up, to let me know. Anybody?
We can lift up the Seidler family
Okay.
who had to put down their dog Archie.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, all right, if we can just bow our head for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you very much. Council, you all received copies of the April 10th town council meeting summary and the meeting minutes. I believe only saw 2 responses from Nate and Connor that they didn't see anything. So I'm assuming everybody, are we good? So if we can get a motion for the approval of the April 10th meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from April 10th.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm sorry, I failed to mention that council member Nate Engel is on a business trip. He's in Africa. So he's not even in a really good time zone to be joining us. So so that's why Nate's not here tonight. So he will be back for the June meeting. Okay, so let's keep going down. The announcements for the June 5th town election. The certificate of nominations. I'm sorry,
Actually,
huh?
I hit the wrong button.
Oh, the certificate of nominations was due by 4 p.m. today. At 4 o'clock, the only 2 declared candidates were Councilmember Bartram and Councilmember, Crimmins. So per the ordinance that we put in, 2 years ago, we will not have an election. If it's uncontested, we don't hold an election. So since we, but instead of an election, we had talked about the possibility, typically we do a meet and greet. So we like the idea of having a part of voting in person in the town is that active community. So we still plan to meet. I think it starts at 6 o'clock. And we'll have an ice cream truck there for everyone to have some ice cream and to meet and greet and thank our two council members who are stepping up to the plate and putting in another 2 years on the council. So we'll send out more information on that. And also, we will still would like to have something in the newsletter. If you would like to write an article in the newsletter, that would be great. And the newsletter is due on the 11th.
Yep.
So just as a reminder. Okay, so that's that. Does anybody have any questions about that? No. Okay. Also, number 2, we will be doing a mayoral proclamation for the 150th anniversary of the Metropolitan Branch of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. We are honoring John Morris, who is a dedicated train guide. And assuming, and I'm looking at Catherine, but maybe I'll know more tomorrow, that they will be selling tickets for a train ride on Mark Train on Memorial Day. We'll be taking the train ride. It starts in Silver Spring and we'll go all the way to Brunswick. So this will be on Memorial Day. It'll be a opportunity to ride the Mark, and then it'll bring you back. And it's pretty much an all-day excursion. But once those tickets go live, we'll put it out on the listserv. And so if you want to join us, then please get your tickets for your family. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, so next item on the agenda is the Sustainable Kensington. Nate Engel and Ann Lichter are chairs, and since Nate is not here, Ann, you got it all.
Sure,
So
thank
go
you.
ahead.
I'm pleased that tonight we have members of the Sustainable Kensington Committee here with us to present the work that our committee has been doing. Just a tiny bit of background before they take the podium. This group was convened in the fall after the town passed a resolution agreeing to participate in the Sustainable Maryland program and pursue Sustainable Maryland certification. We have about, I'd say, 10 or 12 active members, including representatives from the business community. And they've been hard at work putting together the beginning of our action plan. And we're going to hear tonight from a few of our committee reps, I believe. Karen, Daphne, Carolyn, come on up, please, and state your name for the record at the podium. And I think, Alex, you have the slides, so you can share and just tell Alex when you're ready to advance.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Morrissey, and I'm going to start out and talk just a little bit briefly about what we've done in the past. If you want to put the slides up, you can keep going. So 54% of Maryland municipalities are participating in the Sustainable Maryland program, and 41% are certified. So we think it's time we get certified. Certification is good for 3 years. You have to do certain actions repeatedly. Some have to be done annually, some every few years. But everything we've seen in the application makes us think that what they're requiring are great ideas for Kensington. And we have some choice about what we apply for. So we are particularly trying to be careful we follow the survey and what the townspeople are really interested in, and are not filling out the forms just so that we can fill out the forms and get points, but trying to focus on what's useful for us as a town. So what we've done so far, I think you've been part of it. The town passed a resolution to go ahead with the application. We had a green team training. Somebody from the state of Maryland, Sustainable Maryland, came. We're now Sustainable Maryland, Kensington, instead of the green team, to avoid confusion. We did an inventory of what we've already done, which is many of the things we'll be submitting for this year, and are completing an action plan. I'm going to talk about the first year and what we're filling out now, and then Karen will talk about the second and third year, and Daphne will talk about the deadlines to get the application in. So the main thing that we've had to do is to demonstrate that we've actually done the things that they are requesting. They have a whole menu of many different actions you can perform that are good for the environment. All of them, almost every piece requires a citizen education piece. So we need to demonstrate not only that we did the things, but that we've involved town members and that town members know about it. For some things that was very easy. For some things it's been a little trickier because We have things in place that we haven't had to remind people about, or we've told people about in the past, but we haven't explained how it relates to sustainability. So you probably saw the e-news for Earth Day that fulfilled some of our obligations, and the town newsletter has been doing that too. The bronze certification that we're asking for requires 150 points. We were really ambitious and said, oh, we'll start with silver, which requires 400, but since realized that was fool's gold. But we may go for that in future years. I'm just going to give you the basic areas and say very quickly what we're highlighting, what actions we say that we've taken. Under community action, we have a public art program that includes some murals in town. We participate in the Maryland Green Schools, one of the local elementary schools. We did the training, we have an action plan, and we're working on a sustainability resource center that will be on the website. Under community-based food systems, we have a local farmers market that we can document that's well known. Under energy, we have put in the public charging stations. Much of this was done with nobody from the green team doing anything. This was done by the town before we started, but what we're needing to do is document how it was done. We're working on a municipal energy audit. We're working on a municipal carbon footprint. We've got a pesticide-free zone established because we're following the county regulations. We have a local business directory that's actually in the process of being updated, but we have had it for a while and we have it on our website. So the updating is good. And we are trying to keep the local businesses involved, as you'll hear in the year 2 plan. We have the organic waste composting, which luckily started in time for us to submit it. Under natural resources, we've been working on citizen engagement and watershed stewardship, particularly with Weed Warriors, which has been very successful and has a good number of people participating in it, which is helping the local parks a lot. We renewed our membership as a Tree City USA. We're documenting our pet waste program, which we're in very good shape for already. And we can count the fact that we have a National Register Historic District as part of our land use program that promotes sustainability. So that's where we are right now.
My name is Karen Fadley Craig. So the action plan, the first step was to conduct a community survey. And in that survey, we heard a lot of interest on greenhouse gas, on waste management, more organic waste composting, a lot of issues related to our watershed and water management, as well as bicycle and pedestrian safety continued to be expressed there. So these are the actions that we have identified in our action plan that will take some time. They will also take some resources. So for example, for some of the energy audit, installing solar panels on some of the municipal buildings. If we try to expand organic waste composting to businesses or to other sort of waste management services for businesses, which they have a high interest in, those are things which may have an implication on budget or need town resources in order to complete. The same for the stormwater management plan and the watershed protection plan. But we feel like our action plan for year 2 and 3, first of all, kind of expand our actions into more of the categories. So the next time that we apply for certification, we think we'll be able to increase our points and achieve that silver rating. That's our target, as well as create, I think, a more comprehensive plan for the town to be able to manage and monitor just how it's doing in terms of sustainability, and then respond to the things that were actually of concern to the people in Kensington. I will let Daphne talk about our deadlines.
I want to mention one thing I forgot. Participating in Sustainable Maryland will make us eligible for applying for numerous grants, like solar panels on the town building, energy efficient vehicles, et cetera. So it's more than just getting the little star, it's future funding.
Hello, I'm Daphne Wegner. So to get certified for the bronze certification, we are going to likely submit our application by June 1st for initial review. And then we're going to officially submit it on June 30th, by June 30th. And then by October 1st, we should hear if we've gotten the certification or not. And that the bronze certification is valid for 3 years, but we're gonna go for silver certification and probably next year or the year after that. And that's it. Thank you.
Council, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Is nobody gonna,
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
nobody gonna tell us what an insect hotel is? It's on the sheet.
I've seen like the bee hotels, they're usually like little bits of bamboo or sticks of different sizes that bugs can kind of get into and play their in.
We got plenty of bamboo.
So much
I
bamboo.
feel like it should be a
Don't
year
leave my whole
long.
yard.
My question is. One, this is great. And I think it really manageable, starting with bronze certification. The things that you've already identified, how many like whereabouts are you on points? If you need 150.
We are possibly between 170 and 200. There are a couple of actions we're still waiting to see exactly if we have them ready.
Got it.
But we feel like we're secure with these.
Yep. Perfect.
They will give us feedback at each stage, so they write back as they document more or something, so we'll have a chance to amend the application during the process.
This is really exciting because I know a couple of years ago, previous council person was excited, but I don't think they were able to get as engaged as Ann and Nate have been, and engaged means to broaden it out to the community, because that's really what it takes, is the worker bees to go out there and do, to share the tasks, the many tasks. And I am just so pleased that, really our residents have really grasped onto this and are really excited about doing it, because that's what it takes. Because a lot of our municipalities in Montgomery County have registered, but they haven't gone the next step. And the next step is a big step. And we were lucky that we had a lot of points already, so we weren't starting, at the bottom. But I'm really impressed. I just think I've been to several of your meetings. It's just fantastic.
We have great leaders.
Yeah, you do. You really do have good leaders. And that's what it takes. It's good leadership and commitment to, but it takes everybody else though to help do with the work. That's great. Does anybody in the audience have a question? If you do, you're going to have to go up to the podium. I'm sorry about that, but we are doing hybrid. No questions?
Nothing online.
I'll share something else.
Okay, please.
Just a couple of things. First, I want all the Girl Scouts to know that Daphne is a high school junior. So you can participate in town committees as a student, and we encourage that. So as you get older and you're able to earn student service learning hours, we would encourage you to get involved in our town committee. She's been a fabulous active participant in the group. And the second thing I wanted to mention in terms of the municipal energy audit, I wanted to share that Nate has been working with Matt and others to find resources for how the town can not only complete the energy audit, but look at greenhouse reduction steps that we can take, and how we can leverage incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act and other state and federal programs. And through that outreach was connected with the Montgomery County Green Bank, and you all had a meeting.
We already did. And the audit, we should be starting that next week.
We're hoping.
No, that was what Scott said,
Yeah,
right?
we're gonna start it, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were able to subsidize it
Mhm.
to a level that we can approve without council approval.
Right, and that's a
monetarily.
grant, through a
Yeah.
grant, right. So we're really excited about that, and I believe we're also working on grants because we have to replace some of our HVAC. And hoping to do much higher efficiency. The downside to all that is it takes 36 weeks to get some of this equipment, so the building won't be used much during the winter. So anyway.
So we are exploring.
But we
the
are
feasibility of
exploring that,
options.
yes, so we'll be moving along with that. So that's exciting.
And so that's just one example. I think there'll be more things like that,
Mhm.
depending on how involved they are, or how much money they may require, we will be back discussing in town council, the additional actions that you see laid out. So I really want to thank the team for being so active and we've got a few of the members here. We also have Ken, Olwen, and Catherine in the audience. You guys want to wave? And if any of you want to chat with them after the meeting, now you know who some of your neighbors are who are involved in Sustainable Kensington.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay. We can. I'm going to take number 5, which is the bronze, and we're gonna go ahead and let pedestrian, bicycle access and safety working group go next, but we'll switch 5 and 6 around. So girls, you'll be number 5 instead of 6 on the agenda. So you guys are up.
Thank you. I'm Alan Simon, and this is John Rogers. We're representing the group. As you said, Nate is out of the country. Chris Sabby, who also co-chairs the group, is on the Zoom. So we want to talk about the most recent walk audit that took place and some of the results and what we're doing to kind of prioritize and put some of those initiatives forward. So a little background on the group. Next slide. So we were formed in 2020, and the goal being to improve the walkability, the bikeability, and the safety and all throughout the town. And the group consists of not just residents, but some people from neighboring communities as well. We meet monthly. We do advise the town on where should we put the focus to prioritize or spend the money. What are the areas of greatest need? And one of the things that has led to the priorities is the walkability, bikeability audit, which we're doing every other year. It's a biennial audit of all of the blocks. So if we go on to the next slide, please. The first audit we did was in 2020. And there were 64 segments, the segment just being a block. That's okay. The 64 segments that we audited, and that took place between October and December of 2020. We put together a report that was presented to the council in February 2021, and there were a lot of improvements that came out of that. So really 2 categories. There were
Alex, I think he's on the next slide.
It's stuck.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it's
think
stuck.
it's 2 forward, and
Okay,
there's a handout too if you.
yeah.
There you go.
Perfect.
Great. So there were kind of 2 categories of things that came out of that first audit. One is short and midterm improvements, things we could do right away, including things like, where they were missing or damaged signs, put those back up. New pedestrian crossing paths, where there was maybe a safety issue or that kind of thing that you've seen around town. Additional street lighting, where there are areas where it might have been, dangerous at night. And just prioritization in general for sidewalk repairs and needed crosswalks in the town. The other more longer term thing that we did is provide input for the TLC grant evaluation. That's looking at bigger things in terms of the Connecticut Avenue corridor and all of that kind of thing. So, we want to both make short term improvements as well as look at the bigger picture. And then moving on to the most recent audit, the 2022 audit, the one that we just recently did. That took place from November through February. Now, the first thing I wanted to point out is when we went to do the second audit, we did an audit of the audit, if you will. So remember on the last slide, there were 64 segments. We recognized when we started looking at doing this, that there were 44 segments that just weren't included in the first audit. So what we've done now, we've got comprehensive coverage of all the segments throughout the town. And we also had a lot of people, more people involved this time too. Through the Walktober event, we got some interest in people that weren't previously on the committee that wanted to participate because they cared about the issues, which was great because that expanded the community engagement. And the other thing we did was enhance the audit with photos. So the first time around, a lot of data we collected in a spreadsheet, and we updated that data as well. But we also now have a folder on the town's G Drive with many of the blocks or issues, the good and bad, are now documented with photos. So we have a nice archive that we can go back to and reference the next time around, or really for any purpose within the town. If you want to see what a particular block or intersection looks like, it's out there. So we ended up with 100+ recommendations. I think there are kind of 112 or 115 individual recommendations in our spreadsheet. So, what can we do with that to kind of make sense of it? And what should we focus on? So we developed a new prioritization methodology on how to do exactly that. And I'm going to turn it over to John to talk about how we did it, what's the vision, and what do we do going forward.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, so before we can talk about prioritization, I wanted to highlight another accomplishment that our group achieved recently, end of 2022, early 23, we developed a vision statement that talked about what our group does. And I think it's on the website, and here's a brief summary, but talk about envisioning a community where people of all ages and abilities can walk, roll, and bike safely and comfortably. We, as part of our advising town, we identified a few prioritized areas that needed greatest focus, and those are sort of on things like repairing barriers, looking at major state highway roads like Connecticut Avenue, the railroad tracks, focusing on vulnerable users. So that's around schools, playgrounds, other similar land uses. Looking at areas that are high use, where you see a lot of pedestrians, a lot of bicyclists. So looking at the downtown commercial core, other areas that draw a lot of pedestrians and bicyclists, and then also focusing on high crash locations. So we go to the next slide. That vision statement really, we started looking at the various pieces that we had, and we said, how can we leverage everything that we have, and how can we layer the work that we've done on top of each other? So this graphic is just sort of a high level description of the approach that we took, where we built on the walk audit all the great data that the 14 volunteers collected. We applied, so that gave us our baseline. We have all the data. Then we wanted to layer on the vision statement. So we took that vision statement, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in a second, but we assigned a score to each segment based on how that segment scored relative to the vision statement. That resulted in a prioritized list of roadway segments. And then from that, we've come up with a prioritized list of recommended improvements focused on pedestrian and bicycle safety and mobility. Next slide.
And do those recommendations go to the Traffic and Mobility Committee or the Mobility and Traffic Committee?
We will,
Okay, you'll get there. Sorry,
good question.
jumping ahead.
Good teaser. So just a little bit more about each one of these steps. So the walk audit, the map here is a map of all the segments in the town that we analyzed. That was layer one. We could go to the next slide. And then we took that vision statement that I went over quickly just a few minutes ago and assigned points based on how each segment sort of performed relative to the vision objectives. So we sort of, as an example, as further repairing barriers, we looked at, is this a state or county road? And if so, we assigned, a point. We did that for each of the other metrics related to the vision. And sort of assigned between 0 and 1 points for each one of those, summed them all up at the end. So a segment could have scored between 0 points, meaning it's doing okay, doing great. And then 4 points, up to 4 points saying, this is a state highway road, there's a lot of crashes, it's in an activity center, there's a lot of vulnerable users. And so that's really where we should, those are sort of the segments that pop, right? And that's where we should focus. Next slide. This is sort of a graphical representation of where those segments are. And then finally on the next slide, as Alan mentioned, as we were going out and doing the audit, we actually were asking everyone to come up, do observations, come up with recommendations that they had. Is there a missing sidewalk? Is there overgrown bush blocking views? And so we sort of went back to those, revamped them a little bit, just looked at some sort of feasibility issues, lots of great ideas that came out of our group, but trying to pare them down a little bit to something that might, a capital program or capital project that might fit within the town budget. And so we did that as part of our staff report. And Next slide. Just want to give you a little bit of a snapshot of the recommendation spreadsheet. We sort of summarized all the recommendations for the prioritized segments in table format, and we have that and have to clear that. But basically, the end product is a list of recommendations that we think should be explored further.
Where are the rest of this spreadsheet? Is that online or is that on the website?
It's something that our group is working on.
It's shared.
Okay.
It's not online generally.
It's not ready for prime time or?
No, well, okay, the recommendations as a result are, I mean, so it's shared amongst the group. I mean, it's, and anyone else who would like it. I think what we, well, I don't.
There's some next steps.
Okay.
But we want to take those recommendations and move them forward in some fashion. But go ahead, let
Okay.
John finish up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the next step. So we want to work with town council, the manager and staff to implement recommendations under Kensington's jurisdiction. I think that takes a little bit more of its fine tooth comb as, you know, is this recommendation worthwhile, is it fit within a program or a budget? But we did try to focus on things that were like missing crosswalks or switching out or bar crosswalks with ladder crosswalks that are more visible, especially in the areas where you have the most pedestrians. That's what. And so for the ones that fit within the Kensington jurisdiction, we want to move those forward. For those that are within SHA or Montgomery County, continue to advocate for those areas being prioritized. One of the ideas that came out of our group was sort of this idea of packaging recommendations. In some of the neighboring jurisdictions, there are blitzes. And so I think like a number of our recommendations focused on higher visibility crosswalks. So if you package 4 or 5 or 6 together, try to install them all at the same time and then sort of publicize it that way. And then another key point is sort of intersecting with the Montgomery County Parks and Planning pedestrian master plan process. One of their key recommendations is to do a walk audit so we can share that information, share how the town sort of experienced that process and how we leverage some of the other work that we did to elevate the most important safety improvements that we think should be advanced. And then looking forward, now you may want to talk about this a little bit too, incorporating lessons that we learned from this process into the next walk audit, which is already, you know, time is taking every 2 years, it comes quick.
Right. I mean, yeah, I didn't have anything specific on that front, but.
Alan,
yeah.
could you just get closer to the mic just
sorry.
because of the
Yeah, no, I mean.
hybrids?
We improved the process this time around in a few of the ways, and yes, we do intend to do that. And anyone that's interested in either participating in that or just being active in the group, can contact one of us or contact Nate Engel.
Yes, and I think there too, like some of the projects that might actually come out of this process, we can sort of see what fits well within what the town can do, or something that's particularly resonates with SHA or MCDOT. And we can sort of have that information about what projects are successful, and then as we approach the next walk audit, we can sort of, as we're going out and doing all this really great data collection, we can have those types of projects in mind and look for those opportunities to implement you know, whatever types of projects we find successful this time around.
Yeah, and some of our data too will be the Montgomery County's effort in tracking, you know, sidewalk and walkability issues and that kind of thing too. We've already had communication, so that.
Okay, I know it's been very helpful. Matt and I have been attending the SHA quarterly meetings with Nate. It's been very helpful. I know some of the things though that you're talking in town, I would recommend that you, a group meet up with Matt to sit down and go through all the recommendations, because as he sets up work with NZI, our street and concrete guy, some of the things that you're interested in could get on the list. So that's really important to make sure that that happens sooner than later, so it can be scheduled.
Yeah, I think that's one of the first things we'd like to do. And if we want to put the spreadsheet in its current form or a subset of that out somewhere where everyone can access it, we'd be happy to do that too. We'll discuss.
Well, I think you start with our town manager so he can
Right.
lay it out and then bring it back to us too. So that'd be
Agreed.
great. Council, do you guys have any questions?
I think it's terrific. Very thorough. I guess I do have one. All the photos that are being taken in this next iteration of the audio, this current one. They're going on to the G Drive. You guys have done an incredible amount of mapping already and setting out a grid and nomenclature for it. Is there any desire to overlay that with the images so that if somebody clicks on an intersection and wonders, why did this get 3 points or why did this get 2 points? And we can see the actual images that were taken.
I like.
I understand the undertaking I'm asking.
I like that idea. So we're partially down that path. I will say this, so in this big spreadsheet, that has 108
Yep.
segments and lots of recommendations. There's a column for the folder. There's a link on each one of those rows. If you click on that, it takes you directly into the specific folder for that block on the G Drive.
Mhm.
So it's not quite the, let's say, the graphical, what you described, saying, let me look at this and see how many points that is. Now, the points, the methodology John, put together, is in another part of the spreadsheet, but so that could be done, and I'd say we're partially down that path already. And if we make the data collected available, whether it's to the council or to the public at large, you'd be able to just click on a link and get right to that folder, even without us doing anything else.
Ann?
Well, thank you for your work. This is a tremendous amount of effort that clearly has gone into walking each of these segments, not just once, but multiple times and cataloging everything. It's great to see the progress. One question I have relates to the prioritization. So I love the way that you articulated, the vision statement and the objectives and then ranked according to that. I'm wondering if your ranking also included some assessment of the feasibility of the recommendation, whether it's something that's within, the town's capability to tackle, or if it's something that's more complicated because it's going to involve SHA or it's going to require a greater capital outlay.
Mhm. Good question. So the prioritization was really based on need only. And then sort of after the sort of intersection of greatest need were identified, then did we come back and say, okay, here are the recommendations that would improve safety and mobility at those intersections. So there wasn't the sort of feasibility was not part of the ranking on
Yeah.
establishing the prioritization, but sort of an overlay on afterwards. And I think that's a really important next step to make sure that what we've come up with, and we try to do some of that ourselves, but I think, there are people here that would have a really good idea.
That was one of the issues with the 2020 walk. A lot of it was outside of our jurisdiction, and the council knows the difficulty it is to get SHA to move on a smaller project.
Right.
So we'll definitely need to kind of go through the list and figure out what we can put into an existing contract and kind of go from there. So.
Thank you.
Darren, any questions?
I'll just echo, I mean, this is a tremendous undertaking and it's clear there's a lot of work and a lot of areas to improve. And I don't want to, I'm not a technology wizard at all, but to me, it almost cries out for like a GIS layering. Because I look at the mapping and I mean, I see how you sort of lay out the segments. But I don't know like how you fit certain projects into the segments and maybe it's because I need to talk to Nate and you guys about it. But for example, the Hawk signal at Wheatley. It doesn't appear that there's a segment on here for that priority area. And the segment of crossing Knowles at Dietrich, which we're sort of toying with. I mean, it's not a road segment or sidewalk segment, it's a new segment, and we're dealing with it at the SHA level. But I just wonder if one possibility would be to, because we've talked about using GIS for other things in town. And in the past, the cost of the software and the tools was a little bit, we weren't sure if it was justified, but this could be another layer where you can prioritize the improvement based more on coordinates rather than on a segment. It's just something to think about. I don't mean to take away from the vast amount of work you've already done. I'm just sort of wondering how we manage this level of information.
This certainly could be done using GIS, and I think in my day job, like that's what we would do. But it's a volunteer effort. I think
Yeah.
There's a level of granularity that you get from actually doing walk audit yourself. like,
Sure.
Boots on the ground. That I think, getting those better data to work with and also sort of create more buy-in within the groups. I think that's something you don't get with GIS. This was also free. I think that's another nice aspect, but I think, yeah, certainly this could be streamlined and the results, I think could be, even more technically sound if you relied on GIS, but in the absence of that, this was something that we were able to do.
Okay.
And distribute across the group and come up with something that.
Well, thank you.
Have we ever explored with the county their GIS program and whether or not a municipality can
Yes.
provide the data, and is it possible?
Yes,
The county, if you're familiar with their GIS, and you can add layers and,
we actually used it with the TLC grant.
okay.
Yeah.
So, because that goes to my question, of adding it to Matt, I mean. Cheap, easy, right? You just throw Google Maps and take the data and just drop all your pins. But a real GIS, and if the county has it, maybe between Nate and, I mean, that's something I'd be happy to help explore as well, as leveraging the county's assets. Because it should be free and they have the expertise, and we just take the data you already have.
Right.
And just flow it to them.
Yeah.
So,
We'll take a look at that.
Have you had much conflict between bicyclists and pedestrians in your?
I mean, not so much in terms of priorities. I mean, I'm sure that those kinds of, weighing that will come up, but it really hasn't been an issue so far.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions for these gentlemen, for John or Ellen? Can you come forward? You're gonna have to ask the question at the podium and just give your. Does somebody have a hand up?
Less of a question and more of commentary. I live off of Tuckerman Lane. And we have a hawk beacon. And I just want to caution, I know you guys have one too at the Cape Town Skate Park. We had a couple of pedestrians hit and before the hawk beacon at a cross walk. And it didn't have, well, it had an old signal that flashed, I guess. What I've seen daily driving past it, because my community entrance is right there. Initially, when they're put in, I think there needs to be a lot of community education because people don't understand them. The pedestrians and the bicyclists, as well as the drivers and people. The pedestrians may not use them appropriately, and they're a sign for the drivers, but then also sometimes when they are used appropriately, and some drivers are trying to really adhere to the red light and stay stopped the whole time. Other drivers get very upset and can go around, and that's when somebody can really get hit. And then we did have an older gentleman who was jogging, and last I knew, we don't know whether he used the signal or not, but he did get hit. And there are, if you Google, there are nice images that explain a hawk, but I know not everybody stops to understand it. And once they zoom off to work or wherever they're going, it's out of their mind. But I would just say maybe the police department could get involved and help educate the community. So,
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the things that just having dealt with traffic for years now. It's a far more sophisticated process than you might think at a sort of visceral level. You think, oh, you should mark all these crosswalks. And then you hear learning from county DOT that says, no, if you mark a crosswalk that is rarely used, drivers will not be used to stopping there. And so to me, it struck me first as Orwellian to describe an unmarked crosswalk. But that's what Maryland adheres to until a crossing gets a certain amount of use. And the hawk signals is the same way. They don't want to put them in where they will rarely be used because the drivers won't be acclimated to using it. So we always think more is better, but it's not always the case. And it's interesting to listen to the county DOT people talk about how it could actually make things worse.
Thanks, guys. Oh, was there anybody online? Oh.
And Banville.
Okay, Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if the presenters might focus for a minute on the sort of the clash of need and practicality in terms of installing new sidewalks. Installing sidewalks is pretty clearly a way to promote pedestrian safety, but installing them in places where they don't exist now is very difficult in terms of getting neighborhood buy-in on that. So I wonder if you could talk about that for a moment. And the places in town I have in mind are a portion of Kent Street where there's a lot of interaction with pedestrians as well as vehicular traffic and bikes. And then the whole length of Frederick Avenue is, well, almost the whole length of Frederick Avenue is without sidewalks. And these are places that clearly do need them and would benefit from them. But I'm not sure that's ever going to be a reality.
You guys able to just give an opinion on that?
Sure, I mean, just, there's some questions about feasibility and I think sidewalks are expensive. And so we were very selective and where we thought that there were key gaps, again, focusing on where there's older users and key drivers of mostly pedestrian traffic. And so I think the short answer is there's a lot of places in town that don't have sidewalks. But let's be really, really hyper-focused on where those first investments want to go in, because they are expensive and you want to make sure you're getting a big bang for the buck. I think the other piece too is that there may be some, and this is, for further conversation, but some areas where a road is really, really wide. And you may be able to, rather than sort of build from the curb back to a private property, you can maybe think about the space that's already between curbs and reserving that for pedestrians, whether that's in the typical sidewalk or just sort of marked off space or something else. So I think lots of room for looking at ways that you can be efficient and as cost effective as possible.
Okay, Anne Banville?
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would like to raise the topic of electric bikes and motorized scooters and things as they relate to paths that will be shared by pedestrians and the bikes. I live on Kensington Parkway and I see many, many, many more electric bikes and a lot of motorized scooters. So how are we going to think about shared paths for pedestrians and those? Thank you.
Are we planning any of those in town or?
That was really, at least outside the realm of what we've looked at so far, so I don't think we can speak to that right now. I mean, it's a valid issue, certainly, but we're not really prepared to speak to that.
Okay.
And I do think it's something worth either the group or us just thinking generally. Because in the good old days, there were pedestrians and bikes and cars. And we've created an entire spectrum of speeds and vulnerability of these people where you might be on a scooter and the scooter can go 3 miles an hour or it can go 15 miles an hour. And the electric bikes they can do serious damage if they hit pedestrians. So I think both at the state level about where these vehicles belong, whether it's in the road or on the sidewalk, is something that we ought to pay attention to as well.
Okay, great.
We'll take a look at it. And thank you for the input.
Okay, is everybody?
That's everybody.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is we're going to bring the Bronze Award Project forward. And this is an announcement by the Junior Girl Scout Troop 34067.
We had 2 groups going for bronze tonight.
I know, that's right.
Here at Girl Scout Junior Troop 34067, we are honored to be a part of the Town of Kensington Council meeting. Having the opportunity to share something that is important to us as members of a global community is very exciting. We have been working hard on our bronze. The Bronze Award is a leadership adventure with the purpose to make a difference in our community. It is the highest
honor a Girl Scout junior kid chief. The process includes several steps. The local gym, producing Audrey, Island, and yeah. We explored our community. That places where there are a lot of trash that wasn't thrown out. I researched about an endangered animal, the Indian bat. I researched about native plants. I researched that homeless people. I noticed that pedestrians and bicycles in my community were safe. We narrowed it down to 22 ideas. And then we narrowed down 4 in the research. And thought about impact and sustainability. We all had one common goal that we wanted to accomplish: educate people. One of the final 2 projects was addressing the Maryland endangered species, the Indian bat.
I'm sorry, the Indiana what?
Bat.
Bat. Oh, cool.
We took a vote. The project is to educate people about excellent pedestrian safety. Now we are working to make a plan and think through the resources we need and the talents we have to put it all together. We have put our thinking caps on and are considering what the ways is. My idea is to teach younger girls how to bicycle hand signals and encouraging them to be courteous and mindful bikers, walkers, and one-day drivers. Our other idea is to participate in a community event where we could have a table set up and share what we have learned with other members of our community. We will put our plan in motion by assigning tasks and working together to get everything done. Our next step is to spread the word by appreciating those who helped us along the way. We encourage others to act and make their own impact. We appreciate the support of the town council and the time to speak to the community today. We are looking forward to sharing our progress as we work through our Browns Award project. If anyone has any questions, we would be happy to answer.
Thank you.
That was
That was great. Council, do you have any questions?
I do. Outside in addition to hand signals, would you all consider also training new bike riders on how to properly and safely cross streets? Because I see, and I think it goes back to the presentation just before you, a lot of what you just heard and what we're trying to do as a town is try to make safe intersections that are easy for vehicles to identify bike riders and bike riders to make eye contact with those vehicles so that they can safely pass. And if you see anything that you think makes it difficult, you know, to come back and tell us, because then we'll take it back to the committee and we'll try and improve it. Does that work? Great.
Well, this is great. I love hearing from you and hearing how much your process resembled the 2 teams that we heard from tonight, the community groups with Sustainable Kensington and our pedestrian and bike safety group. So you are on the right path. I'm just curious. I'd love to hear, or you can raise your hand. How many of you ride your bike in your neighborhood or in the town? A few of you? Yeah. And have you been able to get to the point where you're able to cross streets? Yes, kind of. You're a little nervous, some of the streets. Okay, so I think then Connor's point of focusing on crossing streets is probably a good place to start. I just wanted to mention, I know a couple of years ago, Friends of Warner Circle partnered to do a bike safety lesson at Warner Circle. And so that's something that could be explored again. And then obviously, if you do want to do a community education event, we have our farmers market every Saturday. That's a great place that you could come to. We also have Kensington's 2nd annual Juneteenth event on June 17th in St. Paul Park, where there will be a lot of people. So I wanted to share those 2 thoughts, but thank you so much for your work and for being here tonight.
If you wanted to have a table at across the street at Howard Avenue to talk about bike safety, that's an opportunity too on a Saturday during the farmers market. That'd be a great opportunity. And Catherine Wood is in the audience here. She helped organize the big bike safety event that we had at Warner's Circles. So she would be a good source to help you out too. So that's very exciting. Thank you, girls.
I have a last question. How many people are gonna be around the 4th of July? And will you be in our bike parade? We have
It's
an
too
annual-
far out to.
Well, just putting it as a reminder, the town has a big bike parade on July 4th. Starts at St. Paul Park, and it's a great place to come out and use your bike, and you get to ride around with all the fire department blocking out the streets.
And there are lots of little kids that may not know how to
Mhm.
manage their bikes. So that's another opportunity. All right. Anybody online have a
Darren,
question?
what about you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Darren, sorry. Sorry.
I will say, I love democracy. I love voting. But I also love bats.
Oh,
Which
you're a little
seems to have
upset about the
lost in
bats.
tonight. And I'm just wondering if, having done research on these bats, that you might share it with us. So that if there's something we can do to protect the bats or help their habitat, we can appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I would share because I really liked to research about it. I like wrote down a bunch of ideas that we would to do to help, so I would share it with you guys so you could do something.
I would really appreciate that.
Okay.
Great.
We
Great.
could maybe even incorporate it into Sustainable Kensington's plans. It
Oh,
might be
yeah, that'd
connected
be
to some
great.
of the work that we're looking at doing.
Mhm.
That's gotta be worth at least 150.
150 points because it came from the Girl Scout troop, right?
Going for that silver.
Can I
Sure.
speak about the cupcakes? too?
Absolutely.
So we weren't meeting in person for a bunch of years, but before that, we bring snacks occasionally for people that came to our meetings, and there are 20 or so cupcakes there that I hope people will get either now or on your way out.
On your way out, be sure to grab a cupcake. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I just so you know that Tara had, the troop leader, had reached out to me about the girls, and as soon as I heard about sustainable and bike safety, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
like.
We've got an agenda for
Yeah, an
you.
agenda for you. So
Yeah.
this is how the council had this opportunity to get involved with the troop, and it's been a real joy. And I know Ann has spent time at a meeting. I've done one. I don't think Nate's been able to arrange one, but hopefully soon when he gets back from Africa, he can do it. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. It's been a real pleasure helping him out. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to now go to the number 6 on the agenda, which is now the town council chamber. The council of Chevy Chase View, which is our next door neighbor, reached out to us. They have been meeting at Christ Episcopal. And they would like to start doing it hybrid, and the church is not able to accommodate that. And unfortunately, the town of Chevy Chase is not as fortunate as we are to have our own town hall. So they don't own actual property in their town. So they've made a request to use our chamber on, I think it was the second Wednesday, third Wednesday.
Yes.
It's a Wednesday for their meetings. So we're bringing that to the council to see if they have any thoughts. It probably would, they would probably pay some sort of fee, but I would suggest we let the town managers work that out. And there would probably be opportunities to also do council or committee meetings here as well. So just checking with the council if there's any objections to sharing our space with another municipality.
I don't have any. I think it seems like a good idea.
I actually, also because we have municipal cable in the building,
Mhm.
who could then work to help broadcast like we have the benefit of, I think it makes incredibly too much sense.
Yeah, no, I think it would be great. Also, their town manager is also retiring. Their town manager is a resident of Chevy Chase View. So their office has been her house. So they will actually be renting office space also in the town of Kensington because they have no office buildings. So we are, even more fortunate. So they'll be spending a lot of time in the town of Kensington. So I think it's a great way of getting closer to our neighbor. Does anybody in the audience have a question about this, or anybody online?
Nothing.
No hands? Okay, Matt, I think you've got the go ahead to, talk to Jana. And figure out how we can schedule that. Okay, super. They do want to start in June.
Okay.
Yeah, the June. Okay. Right, that was best. So we'll go ahead and get council reports before we move on to town manager and staff. Darren, anything you want to report?
I don't have anything to report. I mean, at some point, if we have the meet and greet, I can talk about stuff I've done for the past 2 years and sort of things that I'd like to do going forward.
Okay, do we want to go ahead and schedule a meet and greet while we're here, or so we can publicize that?
We've held open the.
Well, I was thinking we would do it on election night,
Just collapse it into
Oh.
one.
since we're not having an actual election.
Is
It's
it?
June 3rd,
Third.
June
Fifth.
5th, Monday, June 5th.
Yeah.
4 weeks from tonight.
you want to go ahead and schedule that?
Sure.
Okay, we can promote that. Everybody okay with an ice cream truck?
I mean, if I don't get my kids to a meeting.
Any
I'm not
questions
kidding.
from the audience or online about an ice cream truck?
Can we be sure to let the
Infant pro, he's
the
pro.
local elected officials that always come to our election night
Yes, we will
also
definitely
go?
invite all our other elected officials that like.
They usually come up for ice cream.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, now it's not their election night, so they might not come out in droves, but they might still come out.
Right.
Okay. Should we, usually we go 6 to 9. Should we shorten it to 6 to 7 or
6 to 8. maybe.
6 to 8? Okay. Okay,
And then it's just come and go as you please.
okay, sounds good. Bring the dogs, bring the kids.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay. All right, so, Anne, anything?
Just briefly from the Greenscape Committee, I want to point out, since Catherine Wood is here tonight, I really want to thank her for all the work that she has done to get Weed Warriors very active in Kensington. Yes,
Very active.
we've had about, I think Catherine reported 15 to 20 people showing up regularly to tear down, according to the rules, invasive vines that are threatening the trees in the Silver Creek watershed along Kensington Parkway. A tremendous amount of progress has been made. The Greenscape Committee also had a good turnout for the Tree Care 101 workshop that was held last Saturday. Vaughn Gurney helped to organize that. So I'm really grateful for the committee members that are making these things happen in town. Quick announcement. You heard me mention second annual Juneteenth in Kensington. We're going to have a big celebration at St. Paul Park from 12 to 4 p.m. with historical reenactment, music, lots of community groups. I think we're even planning a pickup basketball game with law enforcement,
Well,
which should be a lot of fun. So mark your calendars. It's the day after school's out. And then one other item I just wanted to put out there for the council that we can talk about at a future point, but I was reflecting on last month's council meeting where we were discussing Joseph's Park. And Karen, I'm gonna point you out now. I think you had shared in your comments that we seem to be coupling, a park with needing parking in our historic commercial district, and maybe we needed to decouple those things, and just seeing the breadth of things that are happening in the community right now with the pedestrian and bike safety working group, Sustainable Kensington, potential, desire to work on stormwater management and green space protection, that it might be good if we could bring all of these different strands of prioritization together in a community workshop where we could kind of think through how they fit together, what our priorities are. We can't do everything. How much are these things going to cost, and start kind of thinking on a longer term horizon. As Connor, you mentioned, we have this longer term horizon in mind, but maybe a more public workshop would help with bringing it together. So it's something I'd like to explore.
Right, and I think we were looking at probably October would be the earliest that we could put something like this
It would
together.
take some work.
It'll take a lot of work. So, okay, that's
Okay,
great.
Thanks.
Connor?
Just two items. One, the flats at Kensington, there was a public hearing at Park and Planning. They just had a slight modification to their application that was approved. And I believe they have a public hearing coming up here shortly.
No,
Uh,
that was for the
Oh, the
other,
other one.
the other,
So, but just. some
the other
people had
being not in the
asked-
town,
Yes.
just to be.
But people had asked if that went back to the DRB and our letter of support had gone in and it did pass by the county council or county planning board. And my only other one is just a bright little spot on the north side to welcome Stuart and Savina Sparker's new daughter, who was born May 1st, and that would be Elsie May.
Oh, nice. Any, whether the cafe has opened
The
yet?
cafe has not opened. If you've been by the cafe
This is at Modena on the other side, on the north side.
4 times this week, it is actually open, but it is open to residents only right now. And that was always originally the plan. It opened the 28th to residents in the building. It was slated to open May 2nd to the public. Upon arriving on May 2nd, I came to realize it is not open to the public due
Per
to
their sign.
situations outside of their control, which is
Yeah, what did that?
as much information as we've gotten yet. Janet will get back to me. She said, she just didn't get back to me before tonight.
Okay, she should be thrilled at how excited we are about the opening of this place.
She is. I think she's a little more frustrated with other government agencies
Okay.
who are not working as enthusiastically as we were.
Okay. I have not much to report except a reminder to everybody who provides information to the journal that it's due on June 11th, May 11th. I would like to ask either Catherine or Olin to come up and give a little report on the 150th Met line about what's coming up Memorial Day weekend, if you could. Oh, come on,
I
girls.
mean, she tapped you.
That's,
Yeah.
you have been to 10,000 meetings. You should be prepared. Just say what's coming up that weekend. I know. Should have stayed online.
Cakes.
I know. Just what's happening at Baby Cat? What is going on there?
She organized it. Right, this is all celebrating the 150th anniversary of the opening of the Baltimore and Ohio branch line of the railroad. But it's a bit I'm missing on that, but which is very exciting. Really is. So we're having on the 28th Sunday of Memorial Day, there's sort of an all-town party, so everybody can come, all ages. It's not just for the grown-ups at Baby Cat, and there will be everything, live music, food. There'll be a table for kids. I'm looking at you, Catherine. There will be a special group aptly named. We don't know how yet. They're working on the name.
And it's scavenger hunt.
hunt.
That's right, yeah.
And just lots of fun. It's just going to be tremendous. If I've forgotten anything.
If anybody didn't know, the B&O runs right through the town, just in case anybody's missed that. So this is why we're all excited.
And there's a lot of history to the opening.
Yes.
I'm sorry, to the opening of that railroad, because it really changed the county and it changed Kensington. It suddenly brought, if you like, the Industrial Revolution to the county. We were really, okay, I'm being quite challenged on that one, but it's fine. It really changed.
And we have one of the few original stations. So
Second oldest in the county. So that's Sunday, and then the Monday of Memorial Day, Memorial Weekend, there is a train ride on the Mark Line, and it's starting at Silver Spring and going to Brunswick, and it's going to stop at Kensington And last time they did this 25 years ago, when we celebrated the 125th anniversary, 200 plus people got on at Kensington. So we're expecting there's more people living in Kensington now. So do we have a definite date on the tickets? Aren't on sale yet.
Not yet.
We think it's imminent. And word will get out, but you will have to buy a ticket in advance to get on at Kensington. Then there will be a narrator on board pointing out points of interest. You will have to pay for the ticket, then not free. But then you get an hour and a half to an hour and a half in Brunswick, and then you come back. It'll also stop at Point of Rocks to do a sort of photo op. I don't quite understand that, but it's definitely doing a photo op at Point of Rocks, and it's just going to be tremendously exciting. And we hope everybody comes to everything.
Thank you.
And don't put me on the spot.
I won't. You can fuss at me tomorrow in our meeting. Well, and just so Matt lives in Brunswick, so Matt's going to come to the train station so we can hang out with Matt up in Brunswick in his neck of the woods. And then also our public works crew is going to take the train. So if you want to talk to Jason and Pablo and Joe, you can come along and hang out with our public works crew. So they're very excited. Joe's never been on a train. Never been on a train. I know, right? So it'll be fun for him. They're very excited about coming. Anyway, so thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding our reports? Okay, then we will move on to the town manager. Matt?
Mayor, as Council Lichter noted earlier this evening, the town audit is going through
The energy audit.
the energy audit with the help of Green Bank and Spectrum. We will probably be around $5,000 on our end, so we'll go ahead and sign that contract and work with Spectrum to get that started next week. I don't have a huge update on the proposed Oberon Street sidewalk, other than they're doing the survey location right now. There might be some markings on the road that you'll notice.
Okay.
We'll try to get a public meeting scheduled before Memorial Day. I'm waiting for the finalized quote from our contractor. He's having some issues because there might be some vegetation removal. So we're waiting on that. And then once we do, we'll schedule a public meeting
Okay, on site, right?
on site to meet with everyone and kind of go over the plan, which will connect Kensington Parkway, the commercial area of Kensington Parkway, to St. Paul Park, where there's currently no sidewalk.
Okay, good. All right, thank you very much. All right, any questions for Matt on those two topics? Okay. All right, so we're going to move down to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. Just so everybody knows, we're pulling number 3, which was the ULI. We actually approved moving forward with the contract at our last meeting. We were just going to go ahead and do the resolution for the our town attorney is still reviewing the contract, so we'll bring that back at the June meeting. But we've already approved the expenditure. Okay, so we'll start with number 1, Matt.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, before you this evening is ordinance number O-01-2023, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington to appropriate and adopt a fiscal year FY24 budget and to levy a tax on certain real and personal property under the provisions of the Maryland Tax Property Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland as amended. We did not receive any additional public comment, which closed at 4 p.m. this last Friday. The public hearing was held last month on April 10th. So it is before you this evening to adopt FY24 budget and capital improvement plan.
Okay, and we're not taking further comment because you had until Friday, May 5th. So we'll just need a motion.
I move that we adopt ordinance number O-01-2023.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we're going to move down to resolution number 2. I just want to note that the former mayor of Garrett Park is in the audience, Peter Benjamin, who has been part of the National Gun Violence Awareness for quite a while, or Moms That Demand Action, and has encouraged us last year to take this on, and we're renewing it this year. And I think after all the goings on in the nation right now, I'm not sure I think everybody's pretty aware of it, but I think it's good to recognize it. So, Matt,
Mayor and Council, before you is resolution number R-10-2023, a resolution of the mayor and town council declaring the first Friday in June, Friday, June 2nd, 2023, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the town of Kensington, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of the gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence.
okay. Peter, did you want to say anything before we start? Just come up to the podium, please.
As the mayor noted, gun violence is a major issue here, as it is through all of the United States. And we in the state of Maryland have the advantage that we have passed more gun safety laws than probably any other state, except maybe California. We have worked really, really hard to try to keep our state safe, but there is no way to keep a state safe without all states being safe. And there's a lot of work we still need to do. And it's very important that those places here in this state that can recognize that gun violence is something that we have to stop and pass resolutions such as the one that you have before you. If they do that, that helps the process because it gets our legislators, both state and national, to push even harder to get the kind of legislation we need to stop the mass shootings that occur and the individual shootings that occur. And I certainly hope that this town will do the same as it has last year and say, we want to recognize the 2nd of June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will be meeting on Friday, June 2nd at Flynn Park to, like we did last year, and we will be reading the resolution there. And then orange is the color of the for the recognition, and we will be placing candles in the fountain for this event. So if you're available, please come. And it's a relatively short event, but it's an opportunity to talk about, you know, what this country's going through, to talk about any you know, the gun violence that maybe you've experienced of a loved one. My brother died of a gun wound, so it's very personal to me. So I think if you're available, I hope you can come out. Okay. Is there any questions regarding the resolution? No. Could we get a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number R-10-2023. Declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the town of Kensington, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we pulled number 3. So the last item on the agenda is public appearances. This is the opportunity to bring anything that is not on the agenda to our attention, or just to state. So is there anyone in the audience that wants to come forward? Please do. No? Is there anybody on the raising their hands on the? No? Okay, well, if there's no other item, then we will call a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting will be Monday, June 12th. Council, do we plan to do that in person, or do you want to? Yes, okay, all right, we'll do that in person. And need a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
What'd you say?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Be
Thanks,
sure to grab a
everyone, for
cupcake
coming.
on your way out, so Karen doesn't have to take them home.
Remember to come for ice cream. June 5th.